I've been playing Guild Wars 2 since its initial launch in 2012, and it's no secret that it is my all-time favourite MMO. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a lot of MMORPG games from WoW to Star Wars The Old Republic, Elder Scrolls Online, the list goes on. But Guild Wars always had that something special, a type of allure that drew me in and kept me coming back for more. So, in saying that, here are 5 things I wish I knew before I started playing Guild Wars 2. When you first start playing Guild Wars 2, it's really easy to get stuck into following the green quest marker and making the story flow, and it's easy to be lulled into the typical mindset of quests are the best way to get XP, so I need to do these. But this is just not the case within Guild Wars 2. At this point, I now have multiple level 80 characters, and the first time I played through the game, you can bet that I followed the story all the way through, but in reality, it's not the only way to level up. Guild Wars 2 isn't the grind you would expect from a typical MMORPG. It literally throws XP at you for anything and everything you do. You can go for a walk just to explore the landscape, and as you uncover points of interest and look at stunning vistas, find viewpoints, the game will just hand over hefty amounts of XP. You also might be the kind of player that gets bitten by the crafting bug, and that might become your whole world in Guild Wars 2, which is fine, because you might be related to the Skrit and be chasing those shinies. Does this mean you miss out on the opportunity to XP farm? Absolutely not. As you create more items and learn new recipes for creating, you're going to have XP thrown at you as well. You might be crafting for friends or just looking to turn a profit on the Black Lion market. Doesn't matter either way. If you're not interested in that, you can always farm world events. And usually, the world events have a series of run-up events which will trigger world events like the Claw of Jormag, the Shatterer of Tequatl the Sunless, and Shadow of Behemoth, and many others, and there is always a train of players flocking to these to hunt the mega bosses down. One of my favourite events is the Risen Wizard in Ore. But you get where I'm going with this. Whether you want to progress the story, craft, event farm, or just explore the world you're thrown into, you will have experience points thrown at you like Oprah throws cars at her audience. Guild Wars 2 is the gift that keeps on giving. Normally, well, I say normally, but back then when I first started playing MMORPG games, the first of which was World of Warcraft, when you get to the endgame, there really wasn't much else to do but daily quests and raids. However, within Guild Wars 2, the story continues to continue, with periodic updates to the world in a series that us players know and love refer to as the living story. And it's not some lazy ass story either. It was the slow release of events which would slowly and over a course of time build into a much larger story arc, which would lead you into the story of the next expansion. And once you got to the end of that living story, you were hooked and baited. And you really were going to pay for the expansion, because it's life or death what happens next. No, seriously, the story writers here with the living world could have given Sons of Anarchy and Game of Thrones a run for their money quite easily. And the effects of the story could be felt map-wide, for once you experienced it, you could never go back to how the map was. For instance, in Scarlet's War, the first living story, Scarlet Briar, a Sylvari who had rejected and renounced the Pale Tree, lays siege to Lion's Arch, and you are right in the middle of it. The living story, which Guild Wars 2 offers, sees new and veteran players alike remain engaged and focus on the game, which often gives us new areas to explore and new events to participate in. You aren't left bludgeoning your mind away on daily quests or raids. The Mystic Toilet, also known as the Mystic Forge, which can be found in Lion's Arch. This mystical portal is used to create legendary weapons. Now, in order to create legendary weapons, you need to have all the required components, one of which is only achievable if you defeat Zhaitan, the undead dragon megaboss from the main game of Guild Wars 2. It used to be, when the game originally rolled out, that you had to have a precursor weapon drop. Then you had to mix together a bunch of high-end materials in order to create gifts. Some gifts which could only be attained from World v World v World. once you have the precursor and the 3 gifts required, you then flush them down the Mystic Toilet and you have yourself a legendary weapon. The biggest issue here was that you were at the mercy of whatever precursor weapon dropped. However, later on in the game, a new feature was built in called Legendary Crafting, which allows you to create the precursor now, although it's a bit of a task. But the Mystic Toilet also has many other uses. If you stack 4 of the highest salvaging kits together, it will return you with a Mystic Salvage Kit with 250 uses. You can also throw in other weapons to create specific weapons, which you can find recipes all over the internet for the Mystic Toilet weapon cocktails. Now, this one, like most MMORPGs, most of the players you come across here are just as nice as pie. Not only that, I have found they are always willing to help you out. You might be exploring and stumble upon an event which you're struggling with. Nearby players are always around to swoop in and help out. Now, of course, that's for the majority of players. There is always going to be the nasty player about, but I have found in my own personal experience in Guild Wars 2 that they are few and far between. Even just seeing other players in main cities admiring their weapons and equipment, yeah, that doesn't sound creepy at all. But no, for serious, I have asked players how they obtain certain gear and they are always more than willing to explain how and where. And if you're performing dailies, and one of them might be to perform a jumping puzzle, players who rock the Mesmer class are usually hanging about to give other players a portal in which just to get to the end of the jumping puzzle so they can knock out the daily that much easier. This is something, for me at least, I wish I had played and fully immersed myself into before I got stuck into Guild Wars 2. Now, you don't have to know the story and lore of Guild Wars 1 to enjoy and appreciate Guild Wars 2, but there are so many awesome little kickbacks to Guild Wars 1 which just adds to the player experience. When I first started Guild Wars 2, my main character was a Char warrior, and I'm the type of player that really enjoys clearing out the map, and this all takes place in the Black Citadel, and you'll venture out and find the ruins of old Ascalon, which look really cool. Now, I got into Guild Wars 2 because a friend of mine talked it up really hard, and well, he wasn't wrong, so that got me thinking, what was Guild Wars 1 like? And he and I started making our way through the Guild Wars 1 story, to which he was basically able to carry me through the entire game on his own. But the opening cinematic for Guild Wars 1 had the Char invading the city of Ascalon, and that's when it all hit me. The Char drove the humans out in Guild Wars 1, and now, in Guild Wars 2, it's their new homeland. Not to mention, if you swim in the Bay of Lion's Arch, you can see some of the original ruins of Lion's Arch. And if you get to the Eye of the North, you can see how collapsed and dilapidated it has become in comparison to how regal it was in Guild Wars 1. But that's just me and what I wish I knew more about before I entered the wonderful world of Tyria. What are your top 5 things you wish you knew? Let me know. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again next time.